Well, Congress voting on a bill right now as well to establish a January 6th commission. Democrats control the House, so we do expect the bill to pass. But House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy and most of the GOP are opposed to this commission. They say it is unnecessary, especially after the first impeachment, or I should say the last impeachment, both impeachments of President Trump. Joining us now for more on this is Georgia Congressman Jody Hice. Congressman Hice is also the ranking member on the House Operations Government Subcommittee. Great to see you, Congressman.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we do expect this to pass. Democrats do control the House and the votes there. The question is, what will it accomplish? No offense, Congressman, but from Benghazi to Brett Kavanaugh, the two impeachments of President Trump, it doesn't seem like Congress is very good at investigations, at least investigations that change anything.
Yeah, and that's precisely why the vast majority of Republicans, I'm confident, will not support this. It is nothing but political theater. It's nothing but a tool in the hands of the Democrats to weaponize January 6th as an opportunity to ultimately accuse Republicans, Trump supporters, as themselves being terrorists, domestic terrorists, and we're just not going to take the bait. The Democrats are good at giving good names to things only for the purpose of advancing their agenda, and in this case, they ultimately want to put all of us in the same net as being domestic terrorists, and we're just not going to go there.
You know, there are a lot of lawyers in Congress, and lawyers are supposed to understand that certain words have special meaning. The word insurrection is a legal term. The word sedition is a legal term. Anyone who is opposed to this has been called a seditionist, but you can check the DOJ's database, Congressman. There are no sedition charges filed thus yet. Isn't it irresponsible for so many of these members, especially the lawyers, who know the implication of using the wrong term? Isn't it irresponsible for them to keep calling this an insurrection until it's actually charged as such?
Absolutely, and that's part of the problem. They continue referring to January 6th as an insurrection, and all of us who are basically Republicans as participating in the insurrection. But as you mentioned, there have been hundreds of charges now. Not a single one of them have been for insurrection or sedition. And so this is, again, just a weaponized tool of the Democrats to get us to admit things that were not accurate whatsoever, and ultimately they will use it later against us and call us insurrectionists and domestic terrorists ourselves, and then say you admitted it yourself on that bill that it was an insurrection. So look, we're not taking the bait with this. This is no time to have political theater. We need answers. All of us forcefully stood against what happened January 6th. To in any shape, form, or fashion indicate otherwise is not only offensive, it's just it shows the political motivation behind all of this. But what we want are answers to what happened, and the Democrats refuse to go there. They also refuse to go to the other riots that have been taking place all across our country where there were authentic possible charges of insurrection.
I know there's a desire from Republicans to take a broader look at political violence as a whole. We just talked about the fact that the FBI kind of quietly changed the designation on the Capitol baseball practice shooting from suicide by cop to domestic terrorism. That's a clear, codified example of left-leaning violence against a Republican and Steve Scalise. There are a lot of questions. I mean, you have questions about Black Lives Matter and Antifa violence, maybe potentially incited by the likes of Maxine Waters. I personally have questions about Capitol Hill police being warned ahead of time about the riot and what Nancy Pelosi may or may not have known as it relates to those warnings, or what specific threats justified her having that wall erected outside the Capitol. Is there an opportunity here, Congressman, to get answers to any of those questions?
Great question. In fact, we had a hearing on this issue last week in Oversight Committee, and I precisely asked that question. Where is the mayor of Washington, D.C., for example, who rejected help from the National Guard? And what did she know beforehand? What did Nancy Pelosi know? We need answers, but the Democrats are not serious about having a real investigation. What they are serious about is political showmanship and trying to advance their agenda, which is a part of the whole woke agenda, to ultimately throw all of us under the bus. And this is wrong. Let's get genuine answers to authentic questions on something that was a tragic day in our nation's history, but the Democrats don't want to go there.
Yeah. One more thing I want to ask you about, too. Some House GOP members are revolting against Nancy Pelosi's mask rule. You know, once upon a time, you could be censored on Twitter for going against the CDC's guidance here. Nancy Pelosi's doing it. Has she shown any willingness to actually follow through on these $500 fines that some House members are getting as a result of them not wearing masks on the floor?
I saw a list this morning of members of Congress who are going to be fined, so it appears as though she is going to go forward with it. I think it's unfortunate. Look, we have a vaccine out there. We are certainly coming to the light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic. Thank God for that. It's time for us to start getting back to normal. And the vaccine protects people. And listen, every member of Congress has access to it, as do the vast majority of people in our entire nation. So it's time for us to move forward. It's time for us to get beyond the masks, and let's get back to as much of a normal life and restore our economy and routine American living as much as possible.
All right, Congressman Jody Hice, thanks so much.